Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of What You Gonna Watch. Bet you weren't expecting this one, but let's not talk about how or why it's been that long. Let's just jump into the juicy stuff, shall we? Let's get it. Alright, so the first thing that I'm gonna get into is how these episodes are gonna be structured, which is only gonna take a minute, so just hang with me. So each show is going to be rated out of 5, which is going to be the average of 6 categories. Those being comedy, action, suspense, interest, surprises, and completion. Probably not named the best, but bear with me. So comedy is rated on how much was included in the show or movie, if it was funny, and if it was shown enough times or just how many times it was shown throughout. Action and suspense are basically rated the same way, which is in how much was included, how much was it shown, with some exceptions of action being how serious was the action, was it some real raw battle or was it just some drama. Suspense didn't matter, was it a build up for a moment or was it build up just to say haha. Interest is rating on how long it was able to keep your attention, if it was good, if you wanted to watch a different show or movie rather than that one. Surprise is rated on is if there were any surprises, and if there was, how surprising were they, and or did you see it coming. And then completion is based on when the show was over, did it feel like it was over, because we all know we don't like being left on a cliffhanger. If the show ends, it should be over. There should not be any more seasons. Unless it's a really good show, then there should be more seasons. So, how did it end, basically? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, drumroll please. The first show after a while is Rising Impact, which all of these shows, at least coming up, at least as this episode is being released, should be available on Netflix. Why? Because Netflix is such a great streaming service. The whole Netflix debacle stuff is a whole nother conversation for another day. Alright, so the first subject is comedy, which I rated comedy a 3 out of 5. Because this show is interesting, because he's like an 8th grader, whatever grade you're in during 3rd grade. I'm pretty sure you're like 8 years old or something like that. And there are a lot of funny moments that he has, especially because he's just like a funny character, and the moments between Miss Kyria and Gawain. Now, do things get pretty weird between the two of them? Yes, just a little bit. But that's another topic. Don't you worry, that'll get covered. But a lot of times when Gawain hits the ball for the first time and everyone's reaction's pretty funny, or when he has some moments between his other players, his other golf ball co-star players, whatever you want to call them, his other teammates. One of the funny things is these two characters, Lancelot and Kuromi, which Lancelot is the older one, and Kuromi is just about Gawain's age, which they're about 3rd graders. And Kuromi has the biggest crush on Lancelot, possible. Although I think Lancelot is just happy to have a fan, I think he just thinks it's cute, which I guess it is, I don't know, she just has a fan, she's a fan. And since Gawain's basically the character who he's almost never down. He has his moments, of course, but he's basically never down, so he's such a funny kid, especially since he's almost only 8, like I said earlier. I think it's 8. Alright, the next category is action, which I gave a 2 out of 5. A lot because this one kind of just depends on your opinion of action, as in they go against each other a lot, especially for the Camelot Cup in the end, in 2nd season. But there's not entirely too much actually conflict, no spin jitsu or anything like that. There's a little bit of drama that goes on between the friends, but other than that, it's not entirely very actiony, so I'd say just a 2 out of 5. There are some surprising scenes, not entirely much of a spoiler here, but he does get hit in the head with a golf ball. And just that scene, it's just something you're not entirely expecting, but it's, I don't know, it's interesting. It goes along with another category, I guess, what I'm talking about, but it also goes along with action, as in there are some things that happen there that are a little graphic, I guess you could say, but not entirely, because it's not real blood. I don't know how to explain it. You'll have to let me know if you think something else about the action level, action rating. The next category is suspense, which I also gave a 2 out of 5, mainly because it is around like golf and the tournaments, and you don't entirely always know what's gonna happen. So like sometimes you think this person's gonna win or this is gonna happen, but then it doesn't happen. So like there could be some suspense there, as it, it kind of leads you to wonder like what's gonna happen next. Is he really gonna be able to make this shot? Is he really gonna be able to win this? Or like now that he's injured, what's gonna happen? Just things like that can lead to some suspense. And usually they're pretty good. Usually there's no suspense for no reason, so usually it's pretty good. But there just isn't that much suspense, so that's why I gave it like a 2 out of 5. There are also these whole like sisters, and there's like a whole deal which kind of creates some suspense just on its own, whether or not they're gonna get along or not, or if she's gonna be able to come home or not. Just some things like that. Alright, the next category, which is probably the best category, is interest, as in this show had no problem keeping me entertained. I would much have rather watched the show than been on my phone. Give me some popcorn and it would have been great. The show is definitely good for anyone who likes who likes anime or magma, I think. I don't want to pronounce that entirely too wrong, but that's also what I heard it was. I'm not entirely too sure, so whatever that is, it's something that would be nice. And even if you like golf, my brother just likes golf, and he happened to come across it, and we watched it, and it turned out to be really good. The interest kind of just ties along with how it was just a pretty much good amount of everything else that made it interesting. It was funny enough, there was enough suspense, action, and all that stuff that just made it come together, and it was really good, especially even if you aren't someone who watches anime on a regular basis, which, like me, I don't. It's still something that you can get into and something that's really good. The next topic that we're going to go over is surprises, which I gave a 3 out of 5. Mainly because this is a show where you kind of know Gawain's going to win. Gawain's going to win because he's kind of like the main character. He goes through his struggles, but like you basically inevitably know that he's going to be the character to win, so it can't really surprise you too much. But there are definitely some episodes, some holes, and some matches that surprise you or give you a different outcome, especially in the end. You'd kind of think this one specific person would win without trying to give away too much, but not the person you expect least to win, but it just turns out to be a different event, and you think that you know something, but you really don't, so it can kind of lead to a little bit of surprise. And this show honestly can be freaky sometimes. Like, it's weird. Like, it's a really good show, but it has its moments where it's just like, whoa. Like, where's that pause at? And there was no pause. So, like, it could be really interesting at times, and other times, even when it's not that interesting, where it's freaky weird, it still keeps you engaged with whatever else is going on, with their little side stories and just stuff like that. Or even some scenes between Gawain and Miss Kyria themselves, where it's a little on the edge. Alright, and the last topic before we go over the simple description of this series on Netflix is completion. I rated this show I rated completion a 4 out of 5 because this show, it ends on a good note. There's not really like a cliffhanger. Like, it almost kind of makes you think it is, but it doesn't really leave you on a cliffhanger. But it definitely lets you know that there's gonna be a season 3, that there should be a season 3, which is why it's a 4 out of 5, because there have not been any news about being a season 3, but there definitely should be a season 3 based on just how he ends up going home in the end, and he's really excited to go back again next year. But there's no season 3 yet, so it's gonna stay a 4 out of 5 until I get some proof or some verification that a season 3 is gonna come out. So if you know anything, feel free to let me know, because I'm trying to watch out so we can watch out for a season 3. Alright, now just for that additional information, again, I'd recommend this movie if you like anime, I don't know why I keep saying that, anime, or, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but anime or mangas, or something, or even if you like golf. Me and my brother just simply watch this show together because he's a big golfer, and we just thought it would be a good show. He watched an episode of it and said it was really good, so then we just kind of watched it together. This show is going to consist of 2 seasons. It is definitely on Netflix. Season 1 has 12 episodes and season 2 has 14 episodes. Each of the episodes are about 25, some like 30 minutes long. Yeah, I just looked, and as far as I know, it's only on Netflix, other than those illegal website watching places, which are pretty good. Anyways, the description of the show follows the growth of a 3rd grader, Gawain, cannot pronounce his last name, Gawain Nanaumi. Hold on. I actually don't know, but it follows the growth of a 3rd grader, Gawain, as he encounters the sport of golf and competes with his rivals, which is when he goes to school and he has these a bunch of team members. That's where the action and the gossip comes from. Is some he gets along with right away, some he doesn't, some he has to kind of prove that he belongs. So it gets kind of interesting with them and all the matches that they go through, and then a tournament at the end and who's gonna win. So it does really leave you thinking and questioning. So the total overview overall of the show comes out to a 3.3 and a half. I decided to bump it up to that 0.5 because this is definitely a really good show. So today we also tried something a little bit different where I didn't spoil the entire show with 2 seasons. I don't know if that's better or not, but there was my rating of the show without trying to give away as much information as possible, so you can go and watch it on your own without having too many spoiler alerts. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it, and I will see you next weekend. Keep on watching.